Look at almost any computer, keyboard, television, game console, or older phone charger, and there is a good chance you will find one familiar shape: the rectangular USB port. It is so common that most of us never stop to ask why it looks that way. Why a rectangle? Why not a circle like an audio jack or something smaller and more compact? And why does the familiar USB plug seem to have only one correct orientation? In this video, we'll explore why are USB ports rectangular. The answer has less to do with appearance and more to do with engineering. It comes down to practical design choices made during USB's development. Let's dive in, right here, on History of Simple Things. USB was created to solve a very practical problem in personal computing. Before USB became widespread, computers used a confusing collection of connectors for devices such as keyboards, mice, printers, and other peripherals. USB was intended to provide a common interface that could support many different devices. The USB Implementers Forum, or USB-IF, was established by companies involved in developing the technology and later became the organization supporting the standard and its adoption. The original USB design used different connector types for the computer and the peripheral. The familiar rectangular USB standard A connector was generally placed on the host side, while other connector types were used on devices. The rectangular form gave engineers a relatively simple enclosure for the electrical contacts while providing a defined orientation and a sturdy mechanical connection. It was not designed to be beautiful or particularly compact. It was designed to be practical, standardized, and inexpensive enough to appear on huge numbers of computers and accessories. A rectangle is actually a very useful shape for a connector. The flat sides make it easy to position the contacts in a controlled arrangement, while the metal shell surrounding the connector provides mechanical support and helps protect the electrical interface. The shape also makes the connector easy to mount into the relatively flat panels of computers and other electronics. More importantly, the geometry creates a clear orientation. With the original USB standard A plug, the internal contact arrangement is not symmetrical, so the plug is intended to be inserted in one direction. That can be annoying when you are trying to connect a USB cable without looking, but it also made the original connector relatively straightforward to design and manufacture. USB was never simply a shape chosen at random. Its physical design was tied to the electrical contacts, mechanical requirements, manufacturing considerations, and the need for a standardized connection. The familiar rectangle therefore became a compromise, large enough to be robust, simple enough to manufacture, and practical enough for the computers of its era. USB connectors are repeatedly plugged in and unplugged, so their physical design must withstand mechanical stress. A connector cannot simply hold electrical contacts in place. It also needs to maintain alignment while being handled by millions of users. The rectangular USB standard A design provides a sturdy metal shell and a defined insertion path, making it suitable for frequent use in computers and other devices. USB also had to work across a wide range of products from different manufacturers, so standardization was essential. The USB-IF developed specifications and compliance programs to ensure compatible USB products. This prevents manufacturers from creating incompatible shapes while still calling them USB. Over time, USB evolved, with newer versions supporting faster data transfer and more features, but the standard A shape remained common because it became deeply established. The rectangle was therefore not just a design choice, it became part of a global technological ecosystem. The rectangular connector worked well for desktop computers, but electronics gradually became smaller and thinner. Laptops, tablets, smartphones, and other compact devices had less internal space for large ports. USB-IF documentation notes that the older Standard A and Standard B connectors were relatively large and increasingly limited newer, slimmer designs. This drove the creation of smaller USB formats, including Mini and Micro USB, and later USB Type-C. Type-C was a major redesign rather than a simple size reduction. It introduced a slim, symmetrical connector that can be inserted in either direction, solving the long-standing wrong way problem. USB-IF describes Type-C as a modern connector intended for new platforms, preserving USB functionality while improving usability and supporting evolving device needs. In short, the rectangular USB port was not replaced because it was flawed, but because technology advanced and required smaller, more flexible, and more user-friendly connector designs. This is where the story gets interesting. The modern USB Type-C connector is still part of the USB family, but its shape is very different from the old rectangular Standard A design. Instead of a fixed top and bottom, USB-C is fully symmetrical, so it can be plugged in either way. The USB-IF defines it as a 24-pin reversible connector that supports USB 2.0, USB 3.2, and USB 4 depending on the device and cable. It also enables higher power delivery and alternate modes like video output. USB 4 builds on earlier USB standards but uses USB-C as its physical connector. In short, USB has evolved from a simple orientation fixed plug to a flexible high-performance system designed for modern devices and user convenience. So why are USB ports rectangular? The original USB Standard A connector was a practical, durable, standardized interface for computers and peripherals. Its shape enabled reliable contacts, easy manufacturing, and mass adoption. As devices shrank, USB evolved into smaller connectors and reversible USB-C, reflecting changing technology and user expectations over time. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.